Hi, Dave Franklin here. So did you ever have one of those times when you go to install something and it's a pretty big project and you've thought it through and planned it out very carefully and now you're ready to do the installation, and as you go through the installation or setup wizard, it fails. Something goes wrong. Something you didn't anticipate. Well, I'm here to talk about that right now, and this is in regards to installing the System Center Configuration Manager current branch version 1606 technical evaluation. So this is a free 180-day installation of Configuration Manager with the endpoint protection installed in it that you can play around with and use. You can get it from the Microsoft Technical Evaluation Center. Anyways, having said this, I'm using a bunch of virtual machines and virtual switches in Hyper-V to simply create not just a single Configuration Manager site, but a multiple site in Configuration Manager where I have a central administration site, where I have multiple SQL servers in different places. I have Configuration Manager primary sites installed in different places on those SQL servers, and even some secondary sites set up so that I can practice moving the data around for evaluation and doing reports on it. So it's pretty intense scenario that I'm working with, and I just wanted to go ahead and set that up. So to that end, I have my virtual machine, the very first one I have, which I'm calling the Central CFG1 for Configuration Manager 1, and this is going to be my central administrative site. If I go to File Explorer, I have already taken the executable file, which is a compressed version of the Configuration Manager 1606 that Microsoft provides as part of the Technical Evaluation Center, and put these files into this folder. So I'm going to go ahead and start it by double-clicking on splash.hta. And this will take about 5 minutes. 5 minutes of your time. And then I'll make another video on how to fix it. So these things are rather common mistakes. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Install. And that will bring up the System Center Configuration Manager Setup Wizard. So it gives us a few things we have to do before we install. I do have SQL Server installed. I do know the fully qualified domain name of the computer running SQL Server. It's actually the one we're on here, the Central CFG1. The site system meets the minimum system requirements somewhat. It is a virtual machine. I'm not going to put a heavy load on it. So I believe what I have on this is 8 gigabytes of RAM and 1 virtual processor. I might double that in some cases to provide for an extensive database application on the SQL Server end. But in any case, I'm just going to say next to that. And now I'm going to install this. It's the first one, so we're going to install it as a Configuration Manager Central Administration site. And then next. And I am using the Evaluation Edition. If I wanted, I could use a licensed product, but I'm not. Click Next. And I just have to accept all of these product license terms. You know, if you don't get anywhere. We're not going to do an update at this time. It even has Silverlight, which we have to accept the license for. And click Next. And now, this is always a requirement to either have downloaded and a URL, or have a UNC, Universal Naming Convention, path to where these latest download files are, or use your internet connection to actually download them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll create a folder for this, and I'll create this on the same drive. And so in this case, we're going to call the folder SCCM Downloads. And let's just go ahead and share it. And we'll share it with, we'll put in the Everyone group, so it's only going to be at the read level for the Everyone group. So we can actually find it here, click Add, and now it's shared. And now we'll go back and put the UNC in, // the name of this computer, central-cfg1 / and there's that download folder. And click Next. Now when I click Next here, it has a lot of files that it has to download, so we're going to pause the recording for a little bit. When it's finished, it will just go to the next page, which is the server language page. Okay, so now we see that we have downloaded all those cab files, and now we're going to select for the server English only, and for the client language selection English only. And now I'm just going to, my name of my domain here, my forest is Dave MCT, so I'm going to call this site Dave Site and C for Central, so DSC is what that stands for. Dave MCT Site Central, if I can spell. And the installation folder will still be the C drive. You might want to consider putting in another drive. Very often, and I'm using a Dell server here, and even though this is a virtual machine on the Dell server, sometimes we'll have a smaller C drive, that is the boot and the boot drive and the system drive, and then bigger hard drives where other data is stored. So just something to consider. We are going to install the Configuration Manager console and click Next. We're installing as the first site in a new hierarchy. The whole idea is to create a hierarchy here. Next. And the SQL Server is the same server, so that's fine. We're going to keep the instance name the same, and we want the database, or we have the database named for the Configuration Manager and then this Dave MCT Site Central. Notice the service broker port, so that port number, at least internally in your network, needs to be open. We're going to click Next. Once this occurs, now it's going to ask us to place the SQL Server database and log file on a hard drive. I'm not going to use the C drive in this case. So what I'm going to do is go back to my E drive that I have here and just create a folder for this, a new folder, and it's going to be called SCCMDB. So if I go to that folder and just copy that in the URL bar in File Manager, I can now paste it in to both of these places and then click Next. And then again we have the fully qualified name of our SMS provider, which is the System Management Server, the former name of Configuration Manager. Click Next. And for the diagnostics and usage data, it just gives us some information that we can use here. And now we're going to say, no, I'm going to not get connected. I just want to save some time here, so skip this for now. We can do that afterwards. And Next. And now, very importantly, it's going to check to see if everything is available and ready for us. I'll click Next on that. And it's going to run this pre-installation checker, or prerequisite checker, excuse me. And as you can see, it's failing some things. Aha! I don't have remote differential compression turned on. My SQL Service account is just a local system account. I think a network service account maybe. The user state migration and the Windows deployment tools and pre-installation tools are not installed. That's part of the Windows ADK. The latest version is Windows ADK for Windows 10, so I need to install that. So there's a lot of work to do yet. And there was no real way to find this out unless I went deep into the documentation. But now that I've showed you what you shouldn't do, that is, not install or have these things not installed, we can go ahead and end the video and then work on fixing them and running through these steps one more time. We can actually leave it the way it is now and run the check again. So we're going to go ahead and stop this, and then we'll have part 2 momentarily.